Rafa went from being one of the strongest and most fun to play Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4 to easily the weakest. So in this video, I'll be breaking down some buffs and changes that I think he needs to make him competitive with the other Vault Hunters. Now, I will preface this by saying he can get the ultimate Vault Hunter 7 Platinum time against Subjugator and Fully Invincible, but we're either using under barrels or his melee builds, which are actually pretty crazy because he can actually like one-shot them, as you see here. And it is a little bit annoying to go against Subjugator, who flies around most of the arena when you're using a melee build, but it can one-tap enemies. This is a combination of how his green and blue skill trees end up interacting with each other. I will have this build linked in the comments as well, because it is, at his point, his best to be able to get that platinum time. However, his Peacebreaker cannons, which used to be one of the most enjoyable builds to play, can't really get that ultimate Vault Hunter 7 Platinum time. This is because of a few reasons. Bullet Buddy Deluxe ended up getting a nerf. It only lasts 4 seconds right now. What's most annoying is that he does a little animation at the start of it, which is eating up your time. And if you're using a Ripper weapon, like you got about a second and a half to be able to fire off your gun. And the infamous Dancer class mod nerf, which used to give your overdrive bonuses a 100% increase down to 50%, which means he lost out on his shields, his damage reduction, his overall damages from splash, as well as Temerario, very powerful skill, Devil May Care for sustain, fire rate, ammo regeneration, his gun handling, and even further fire rate and gun handling, and critical hit chance. So all of those took a pretty big hit from this nerf. And I get it, the rest of his class mods are pretty lackluster, but I feel like they should have got buffed first. But most importantly, the ceramic bod was really the only nerf he needed, with stickies no longer doing the insane amount of damage. Other weapons like the Chaosin, which were best in slots for Rafa because of his infinite ammo generation, which no longer is a thing. So I do think at this point they could undo the Bullet Buddy Deluxe and Dancer class mod nerfs, and he would still not even be the best Vault Hunter. I think Amon even clears him at this point. So yeah, the bod nerf, I think, hit Rafa the hardest just because characters like Harlow, who do have infinite ammo, also have a lot of other things going on in their kit. So they have been mostly unaffected because it allows them to use different guns and not have to, use the bod all the time. With Rafa, with those other nerfs, his damage output is just not possible to get that ultimate Vault Hunter 7 Platinum time. Like, it might be possible, but it's really difficult. But I'll be going over his skills in each of the trees here because some of them just feel a little bit like there could be some changes that might actually benefit his build varieties a lot more. Now, one thing that is very hot topic right now, metal management, because this is on his new bombastic class mod, but it doesn't give you any extra perks. But one thing I want to mention is that there is an issue tracker for Borderlands 4, and they are aware of this as of 3 days ago, so the duration of metal management should go up to 4 seconds here. So this is something that we'll likely see in a week or two's time with an update. There's a lot of actually skills for Rafa has here that are in the issue tracker, like his Storm Gliders get blocked by the world geometry. A big one here is Jacques from Mott does not actually convert properly once overdrive ends, which gives him his action skill cooldown rate. Now, he has a few different action skill cooldown rates here to help out with Apophis Lance, but I have some other ideas that I think Apophis Lance really does need. But yeah, Mate doesn't work at the current moment. There's some other lesser important ones, like the Vitriol passive doesn't work with the Oh My God, Legendary Mali 1 SMG, Peacebreaker cannons. If you reload, like if you exit the game and reload back in, it won't fire more than 20 rounds. So the fix for this currently is just to end the action skill duration and redo it. And another one that kind of impacts him is the plus damage dealt modifier on class mods doesn't increase damage dealt. This is all Vault Hunters, but I didn't realize that because I was here using the Buster class mod, which is for Apophis Lance, but oddly enough, it's even better for the green skill tree. So yeah, Rafa's got a lot of really weird gimmicky builds. He almost kind of feels like Zane before the Seeing Dead class mod came around. So maybe Rafa will get a good class mod, because right now, Harlow, I thought, had the worst class mods across the board. Like none of hers did anything great until she got the Phlebotomist and the new Plasma Fill class mod, which actually makes her blue skill tree really good. I posted a build on this the other day after experimenting with it. So Harlow got some pretty good class mods. Rafa got a point into metal management that doesn't currently work, and damage while gliding. Oh goodness. But I'll first start with the Apophis Lance here. Now, one change that I think would actually benefit this quite a bit is changing it from having charges so that whenever you use it, it eats up the action skill cooldown time, so that you have to make a choice between using it or saving it to get your overdrive bonuses. But the skills here are reliant on you trying to get the action skill cooldown rate back. Oddly enough, they're gated behind having to pick a previous one. So like Papardo here, whenever he reloads his gun, he gets action skill cooldown rate. The only problem with this is some of his skills here regenerate his ammo, or make it so that ammo doesn't even get consumed when you're using this. So you're reloading your gun a lot less. A little bit confusing. But another one is whenever Rafa throws a grenade, he gets action skill cooldown rate. That's cool and all, but when you're in Apophis Lance, you can't throw grenades. So it's another one that's a little bit counterintuitive to the overall build architecture. So personally, I do think that Apophis Lance should be able to throw grenades. I don't see why not, because he does have skills that drops them for him. So even if we don't have an animation, it's fine. Just have the grenades be tossed out so that we can activate our skills. And I think that that would help out quite a bit, because he also has drone defense. When you activate an ordnance, it spawns the storm gliders to hover around him. This one is just a little bit confusing why it's in the blue skill tree. I was actually talking with Akil of Awesome about this and a few other people in the Borderlands community on my past videos. There's a lot going on with Rafa's whole kit. This, oddly enough, would feel a lot better in the green skill tree, and the green skill tree has abilities that would benefit like shock damage, for example, and increasing overall splash damage, which is something that's typically in this skill tree here, which has like ordnance damage, detonation, which has splash damage. So this could easily just be a swap between the skill trees, and I feel like it would make a whole lot more sense, even though even in the green skill tree you can't activate your ordnance. It just doesn't really fit into this very well. But yeah, this blue skill tree has a lot of things that are not synergetic between each other. Compare that to things like green Harlow, who has a lot of synergies in her trees, and all of Caches, which work together very well. Having ammo regeneration and reloads doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Obviously, it's you pick one or the other here, but the Apophis Lance, if you've used any like Apophis Lance builds, you're typically using it for metal management to toss out a bunch of underbarrel beam tossers, because that's really all it's got. And it even has like the Fiesta here. When you apply a status effect, it makes it so that Apophis Lance consumes no charges. This is a deep investment for something that's not like super amazing. And the skills here are kind of funny. Like whenever he slides, he gains bonus shock damage. Rafa has a lot of stuff for sliding and gliding, which just isn't always the most effective thing in a game. And a lot of times you can't even glide. And even the right tools requires you to reload. So a lot of the blue skill tree just does not work well together amongst it. And really, when you're using Apophis Lance, again, it's metal management, charging up for El Soldado to boost up your gun damage even further. This being an overdrive skill, it did get nerfed as well with the Dancer class mod nerf, but this is really where a lot of damage ends up coming from, not from his Mega Man Blaster. And previously, what you'd use the blue skill tree for was to offset the Temerario, which decreases your gun handling, by using things like the Al Centro and the La Garza here, which will help out with that, so it's not inaccurate. So yeah, the blue skill tree is an okay support, but red skill tree is just so rough right now, which brings me to this. This did get obviously the Bullet Buddy Deluxe nerf, which I hope will get reverted, but one thing that I think could also work is that if they change it to like a 6-second duration, but remove that animation. And I also think that it should work with heavy ordnances, since, I mean, Aemon can use them. Rafa's the soldier. He should be good at doing that. In fact, Harlow and Catch are also amazing with heavy ordnances, but Rafa really struggles with them. So there could be some changes here that I think would be really nice. Either put it back to what it used to be, because stickies don't exist anymore, so you don't really need that to happen, or change it and remove the animation, because the animation does make it a lot harder to use, especially if you're using like a Ripper weapon, which are some of the better ones in this game. Now this skill tree, you can throw ordnances, and it has skills that'll drop your grenades here and boost up your ordnances. That makes sense because you can actually use it in your action skill. I think all three should be able to use grenades in their action skill. I don't see why not. But this has the most confusing thing in the game, indirect projectiles, which doesn't actually include a lot of the things you'd think it would. So this is basically any like non-gun damage. So indirect projectiles include action skill weapons, thrown guns, and projectiles that are not fired from your gun. This doesn't include like the Constable, which has those leftover projectiles. Now there's a lot of confusion as well about ricochets being a indirect projectile. So to show this, all indirect projectiles deal bonus incendiary damage. So to give you an idea, if we're using a weapon here that's going to ricochet, it doesn't give that bonus incendiary damage. You're not seeing that there on the ricochets. So ricochets are not an indirect projectile, despite them not technically being fired from your gun. They're being fired from the head of the enemy that you're shooting at. So yeah, that does really suck. I feel like that should be something, because I know there's been a lot of people saying that, and I even thought that for a long time, that indirect projectiles counted ricochets, but you can see that right there simply. Whenever we get those ricochets, we're not getting fire damage. So yeah, that is kind of unfortunate. I feel like the bod really did hide a lot of Rafa's like weaknesses overall. It's kind of like a band-aid over it. So indirect projectiles are very confusing. This is like our action skill damage. It counts for like ordnances as well. It counts TDR weapons. And even if you use the Hot Slugger, which for a while people were thinking that this one will also ricochet, it doesn't actually properly ricochet the fire damage over. So as you can see here. So yeah, no fire damage, not technically an indirect projectile. I think they fixed that bug a while ago. But yeah, the red skill tree was what a lot of people consider to be the most enjoyable because it's pretty well designed as a whole and it allows you to use guns to the full advantage of a soldier. So I feel like the changes to the Dancer class mod as well as Bullet Blade Deluxe need to be reverted back, and that'll at least make him competitive. I still don't even think he'd have a top 4 Vault Hunter clear time on the new bosses, but at least he would be able to clear it. And I guess it's a funny segue to go into the green skill tree because asymmetric warfare counts on his blades. Those are an indirect projectile for some reason here. They need to change the name of that desperately because yeah, this is a buff to arc knives here. Now, arc knives as a whole is a decently constructed one, but there are some confusing things like these splash damage skills we got in here. These would be better suited, as mentioned, in the blue skill tree, which could trade out for the storm launchers here, which just feel like they fit this theme a little bit better with the cold corrosive theme, with you got like Midnight Oil and Ultra Cabral here that are going to be corrosive damage. Getting shock, just it feels like it's an Apophis land skill. Maybe they swapped this late in development, I'm not sure. But booming business is a pretty funny thing because whenever you use this, you drop a free grenade, whatever your grenade you have using. There's only like 2 grenades in the game that won't end up completely destroying you right off the bat, so this is a bit funny. To really utilize this, you got to use the Destructo Disco here, which won't end up hurting you. So there's like only a couple grenades in the game that actually do this. This could easily change to a heavy ordnance projectile as well, like some of the other skills here, and I feel like that would suit even better. This will let you use new weapons like the Heimdall, which means people would buy the new DLC because the Heimdall is just the best heavy ordnance at the current moment. But yeah, to really use the green skill tree, you got to go pretty deep. The level cap did help out because you can then pour some points into here to get our damage boosted up. We're looking for as much bonus damage as possible on the arc knives build, and the way to actually make them work well is oddly enough to take the Buster class mod. So the ability there does not work on this at all, nor does the damage dealt currently. It's the role in the blue skill tree that we were looking for. You need to have those points in permalast. This was previously bugged. I did post a knife build 7 months ago where this used to be an overdrive skill, oddly enough, it didn't list it, but it would scale up to 150% double damage chance, which just give infinitely looping damage. They did change that, but even still, this is what enables this build to do crazy damage, because whenever you do action skill damage, it has a chance to deal that damage again, and that does stack up quite a bit when we got a lot of different damage riders on it. And to go back to drone defense, this does fit best in the green skill tree. They would also want to change this maybe to deal melee damage as well, because the damage from those are just terrible. If they scaled off of this as well, I think it would actually make it useful. So fundamentally, I feel like this change could make it so that the grenades don't imply self-damage to you, because as it stands, you have to use Destructo Disco and the Fire Pot are really the only options you got for an ordnance that's not going to end up taking you out, or also make it so that it works with heavy ordnances. But yeah, I feel like if the blue skill tree does, or the green skill tree gets a nerf because per my last change or something like that, this is only it one shots, like as you saw. It is actually insane against the new bosses, but I feel like that's not really an intended mechanic here. It's just riding a lot of extra damage, and Groundbreaker doing some crazy stuff. Even after Groundbreaker and Permalast taking nerf, this build is still pretty crazy, but he's a soldier. He's running with a knife into a gunfight. Now, as class mods, I think all across the board could use a bit of a buff. The skill rolls on these aren't really amazing, and for example, Bombastic getting 105% damage while gliding is extremely hard to use, but this is incentivizing you to hold on to your Apophis Lance, because again, it has charges, so if you shoot through them, this is useless. So again, they could change Apophis Lance to consume his action skill duration. I feel like that would be a much better change, as then you're actually incentivized to use something like the Bombastic class mod. They are working on a fix in metal management, but this requires you to fire off your action skill, which again, it kind of defeats the purpose of it. And it also comes with points in accrual here, which wants you to hold on to your action skill as well. This boosts up your skill damage the longer your action skill has been active. So really, the Bombastic class mod is all about giving you metal management, one of the best skills in his blue skill tree, and then telling you not to use it at all so you scale up the damage. It feels a little weird how it's built, but hey, maybe they'll change Apophis Lance. Now the Dancer class mod, I feel like they just revert it, it'll be good. But the best rolls are really getting Soldado and then 5 Temerario. There's some weird skills here like Sustainable Energy. This is an overdrive skill that gives you health regeneration, but every other Vault Hunter has way better health regen than Rafa. It's just unfortunate. This isn't really a skill you want. The best roll for the Dancer would look something like this with plus 5 points to Temerario, 1 Soldado, and 1 Fire Rate. I was using this for a very long time, even though this is not a very good roll for the stats we got on it. It was enough to get by because it's just his best. Now, the Grenade Zerker is a pretty decently designed one here. Whenever he throws a grenade or T-Door, it throws an additional one. This gives you a boost to ordnance damage, but it has Synergia, which is actually pretty good. When you deal ordnance damage, you get increased gun and melee damage. And also, whenever you get Confetti, it gives bonus damage in the gun's current element. These are pretty good, but these are ordnance-based skills, but they just kind of suck for rolls, like Ariba giving you ordnance cooldown rate on a kill skill, which is a little bit lackluster, as well as a Bajo there. When we throw a grenade, we get action skill cooldown rate. So you really just want to find those red and green skills on this if you're rolling with a build like that. And his Grimmador, which is meant to be a melee focused one, isn't even his best melee one. The Buster, oddly enough, is. The skill rolls are okay, increasing action skill duration. More of that grenade nonsense where it take you out, unless you're using those two that mentioned, and Dial In, which is an okay one, giving you a slightly increased critical hit chance, but you lose that stack once you get that crit. So yeah, that ends up with you wanting to use the Buster class mod for the Per My Last, which just ends up being the best possible roll. Buster's also pretty cool because you can charge it up and then not consume a single charge of your Apophis Lance, but Apophis Lance doesn't really do enough damage to make it worth using. This is just best for the knife builds. And Reapparation here just is not really even worth using. I've tried it and it's just not that great. It does give rolls in Herga here, which gives you action skill duration restored, which is quite nice. However, it gives points into Shock Marker, which just makes no sense because it's about splash damage, which is something you'd probably want to have into the Apophis Lance tree. And the Overdriver, which you'd think would work very well with the Peacebreaker cannons, is kind of weird. Deals increased ordnance and damage, gun damage the faster he's moving. But it gives points into Devil May Care, which gives you increased movement speed, but obviously Temerario just ends up being so much better in this instance. It also gives you increased ordnance damage after reloading your gun, as well as Collaborative Ignition, boosting up your skill and ordnance damage. But as mentioned, Rafa's not really that great with ordnance because every other character in the game has ways to get it and maintain it where he doesn't. I like the Instigator class mod again, but the Dancer just outclassed it in every way. There's probably a way that they could boost up like the damage to maybe like 3% and make this a lot better to use and then compete. But I think the philosophy for this should be to buff up all the class mods in some way, because some of them just have weird skill rolls or not really that effective compared to the Dancer with his Temerario, Soldado, and the increased overdrive bonuses. If it didn't have those skills, I feel like this would be good, but the Dancer's in the game already. I feel like they got to revert this back to what it was because Rafa is in rough shape. But yeah, this video essay is getting a lot longer than I was expecting it to. Just wanted to talk about some things regarding Rafa because I really enjoy playing Rafa, but as a lot of other people have mentioned in my videos, they're just not enjoying Rafa, and I do think he needs some changes. Didn't mean to go this long in the video, but I still have a lot more that I could say about it. And yeah, I love this game, so I want to put my thoughts out there regarding it. So let me know your thoughts though in the comments below, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Subscribe if this video is useful, and we'll see you in the next one.